sick person smuggled 17 guns into his hotel room and
I hate to nitpick, but I believe you doubled the amount of guns that were used. I believe it was only 10 guns.
smashed out the windows, started firing indiscriminately from the 32nd floor into a crowd of 22,000 people across the street. And as a result of that, this morning we have children without parents and fathers without sons, mothers without daughters. We lost 2 police officers. We lost a nurse from Tennessee, a special ed teacher from a local school here in Manhattan Beach. And it's a kind of thing that it makes you want to throw up or give up. It's too much to even process.
Yes, you're absolutely right. It's absolutely unbelievably terrible.
All these devastated families who now have to live with this pain forever because one person with a violent and insane voice in his head.
Now, it sounds like he's talking about somebody that's mentally ill. No, this person wasn't schizophrenic. The person wasn't mentally ill. He doesn't mean this literally.
Managed to stockpile a collection of high-powered rifles and use them to shoot people. The guy was an accountant. He had no criminal record. His brother, who lives in Florida, seems totally shocked, genuinely dumbfounded. He said he saw no sign of any of this. The owner of the store that sold the killer some of the rifles said he passed the government-mandated background check when he was in the store. He wasn't on any watch list. Didn't seem to have been a religious or political extremist. Came out of nowhere. And because of that, because there weren't any of the usual signs, I've been reading comments from people who say this is terrible, but there's nothing we can do about it.
So, look, we already got all the laws on the books that you could possibly imagine, and he passed all of them. See, laws can't prevent stuff like this. But what could have prevented this was not to host a concert right in the middle of a bunch of tall buildings where there could be snipers.
But I disagree with that intensely because, of course, there's something we can do about it. There are a lot of things we can do about it. But we don't, which is interesting because when someone with a beard attacks us, we tap phones, we invoke travel bans, we build walls, we take every possible precaution to make sure it doesn't happen again. But when an American buys a gun and kills other Americans, then there's nothing we can do about that. And
okay, the guy never committed a violent crime in the past. He wasn't mentally ill. He wasn't part of an extremist group. He passed a background test. He went through all the red tape that you could possibly imagine. See, all the gun restrictions that you possibly could imagine that you made necessary to get a gun didn't help at all. See, gun laws don't help. The only thing that does help is being armed. This is one of those situations where laws won't prevent it. You could even ban all the guns and they'll be on the black market and he could get them that way. There's no way to prevent a bad guy from getting a gun if he wants it. If there are guns in your society, criminals will get them. And the only way to stop a criminal with a gun is another guy with a gun. So it's not a good idea to disarm citizens from having firearms. All banning guns or regulating guns will do is keep the guns out of the hands of the good guys and put them in the hands of the bad guys. Because when you illegalize guns, what you're going to do is make a bunch of good guys sell their guns in the black market to make their money back. And those guns are going to be in the hands of criminals. Also, criminals won't give up their guns anyways. They're going to keep them. And only the bad guys, as I said, will have guns. All the good guys will be disarmed against the bad guys. Here's a likely scenario if you highly regulate or ban guns. Imagine you're in a grocery store and a criminal brings in an illegal AK-47 that they bought off the black market into the store and starts shooting people. Well, nobody in that store is going to have a gun now, and then you guys have to wait 15 minutes for the cops to show up to outline your bodies in chalk because nobody was there to prevent the criminals from killing people. The only people that are going to stop a criminal is somebody that's already there with a gun. That's private security or armed citizens. Those are the first responders, not the police. The police are like the second responders. They show up 15 minutes late, and all they could really do is just outline bodies in chalk, as I said. They're not there in time. So it's important to keep guns legal so good guys could respond first. You may say, well, I don't want to ban guns completely. I just want to regulate them. I just want to get rid of 30-round magazines and mechanisms that make your guns shoot faster. Well, here's the thing. Those mechanisms will always be available on the black market for criminals to get. And if criminals have access to them, I think the good guys should have access to them too. And they shouldn't be illegal for the good guys to get. You see, it should be a fair game. Like, the criminals shouldn't have better artillery than the good guys. That would be a bad idea.
Second Amendment, I guess, our forefathers wanted us to have AK-47s, is the argument, I assume. Orlando, Newtown, Aurora, San Bernardino, every one of these shootings, the murder used automatic or semi-automatic rifles, which are not weapons you use for self-defense.
You bring up fully automatic guns, but fully automatic guns are already banned. See, you keep bringing up things that prove that gun laws don't do shit. Fully automatic guns are banned, and it didn't prevent any criminal from getting their hands on them, did it? And your super strict background checks didn't work either. You know, the ones that disqualify you if you have a misdemeanor of domestic violence. And a lot of people like to say, oh, well, they're legal to own. You just got to be investigated by the FBI, and you got to pay a fee, and you got to wait 7 months. Well, for the vast majority of people, right now, this second, they're highly illegal to own, unless you do all those things. So, yeah, they're illegal. Also, the manufacture of fully automatic guns have been banned since 1986. And to own one of those guns, it's going to be around $20,000. To give you an idea how expensive that is, a normal AK-47 or an AR-15 today costs around $700.
They're weapons designed to kill large numbers of people in the shortest possible amount of time. And this guy reportedly had 10 of them in his room, apparently legally. At least some of them were there legally. Why is that allowed? I don't know why our so-called leaders continue to allow this to happen. Or maybe
you're not freaking getting it. It was a gun-free zone. The guy was mentally healthy, so mental screenings wouldn't have saved anybody. He wasn't part of an extremist group, so disqualifying extremist groups from owning firearms wouldn't have even prevented this disaster. He was a gentleman, and nobody suspected him to do such a thing. He had no violent past whatsoever, so he passed the background checks. You had every bullshit liberal precaution in place, and it didn't prevent the shooting, did it? As I said before, the problem was the location of the concert. The concert was sandwiched between a bunch of tall buildings that made for good sniper spots. That was the problem. Also, a lack of security was the problem. If the hotel had proper security, they would have killed the guy before the cops even showed up, saving dozens of lives.
a better question, why do we continue to let them to allow it to happen? 5 people got shot in Lawrence, Kansas last night. 3 of them died. It didn't even make a blip because this is just a regular part of our lives now. And you know what will happen?
According to the FBI's own statistics, up to 2 million violent crimes are prevented every year because of firearms. That's way more lives saved because of firearms than taken away. And there's only 10 gun murders a day because of firearms. That's not that bad considering that we have a population of 360 million people. And we have 300 million to 500 million guns in the United States of America. 10 gun murders a day isn't shit. And here's all the math broken down for you. The left claims there's 91 gun murders a day. Well, they call it deaths by gun violence. And they're obviously talking about gun murder, right? No, that is all deaths. The majority of that is suicides. You cut out the suicides, you're left with only 32 gun homicides. And here's the thing. Homicide doesn't mean murder. Homicide includes self-defense killings. At least it does in America. Now, most of that 32 gun homicides is good guys killing bad guys because the majority of guns are in the hands of good guys. So you cut out the good guys killing bad guys, you're left with 10 gun murders a day. 10 gun murders a day is insignificant. The left always try to pretend there's more gun deaths going on than there really is. Like I said, the number that they always say is 91. I just showed you that it's 10. So they lie. They almost try to times it by 10. It's freaking ridiculous. Sorry, I'm just so tired of left-wingers lying about statistics to enact gun control and policy change.
We'll pray for Las Vegas. Some of us will get motivated. Some of us won't get motivated. The bills will be written. They'll be watered down. They'll fail. The NRA will smother it all with money. And over time, we'll get distracted. We'll move on to the next thing. And then it will happen again and again. And last night, the White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders said this is not the time, or actually it was today, this morning, she said it was not the time for political debate. And I don't know, we have 59 innocent people dead. It wasn't their time either. So I think now is the time for political debate. President Trump is visiting Las Vegas on Wednesday. He spoke this morning. He said he's praying for those who lost their lives. You know, in February, he also signed a bill that made it easier for people with severe mental illness to buy guns legally. The Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, the Speaker of the House Paul Ryan, a number of other lawmakers who won't do anything about this because the NRA has their balls in a money clip, also sent their thoughts and their prayers today.
Oh my God, what a load of bullshit. 97% of people that commit violent acts are mentally healthy. Only 3% of violent crimes are committed by the mentally ill. Only 3%. The mentally ill are 10 times more likely to be the victim of violent crime than to be the perpetrator. So if anybody should own guns, it's them. If you guys want to see my take on mentally ill and schizophrenics owning firearms, take a look at the link in the description box.
Which is good. They should be praying. They should be praying for God to forgive them for letting the gun lobby run this country, because it is it's so crazy. Right now, there are loopholes in the law that let people avoid background checks if they buy a gun privately from another party, if they buy a gun online or at a gun show.
It's not a loophole. People have the freedom to sell their own property. That includes firearms. They don't need to be an expert in background checks in order to sell their own property.
So I want to show you something. These are the faces of the senators who, days after the shooting in Orlando, voted against a bill that would have closed those loopholes. These are the 56 senators who didn't want to do anything about that. Now,
it's not a loophole. Selling your own property is called capitalism. That's what makes this country great. Stop trying to ruin this country.
90% of Democrats, I'm not talking about politicians here, I'm talking about people, and 77% of Republicans support background checks at gun shows. 89% of Republicans and Democrats are in favor of restricting gun ownership for the mentally ill.
Blacks are 5.5 times more likely to kill than any other race. Guess we should take away guns from them since they're so violent. Discriminating against black people is obviously wrong, but so is discriminating against mentally ill people. Mentally ill people, not even 1% of them are killers. So why should 100% of them lose their gun rights?
But not this gang. They voted against both of those things. So with all due respect, your thoughts and your prayers are insufficient. And by the way, the House of Representatives will be voting on a piece of legislation this week. It's a bill to legalize the sale of silencers for guns. This is what they're working on.
Well, what are silencers? Oh, you mean suppressors. Something that suppresses sound, not silences it. A suppressed 762 by 39 or 223 or 556 sound like a freaking jackhammer going off when with the suppressor on. I know in movies they sound like pew pew and they sound like little whispers, but that's not what they sound like in real life. Stop getting your education on fucking firearms from movies and video games, you damn idiots. Fucking left-wingers piss me off. There is a reason why the bill is called the Hearing Safety Act, because it protects your hearing. Normally, firearms ruin your hearing permanently every time you fire a shot. That's why we have suppressors. That's why we want suppressors, because it makes guns hearing safe. We don't want to lose our hearing permanently. As I said, guns with suppressors on them still sound as loud as jackhammers, so it doesn't make the killer more deadly and silent. It doesn't at all. It just prevents you from hearing a ringing in your ears for the rest of your life, which would be a good thing.
We have a major problem with gun violence in this country, and I guess they don't care. And if I'm wrong on that, fine, do something about it, because I'm sick of it. And, I want this to be a comedy show. I hate talking about stuff like this. I just want to, laugh about things every night.
Yeah, it seems like you concern yourself more with entertainment than the facts. Get yourself straight on the facts, and then you'll understand where people are coming from.
But it seems to be becoming increasingly difficult lately. It feels like someone has opened a window into hell. And what I'm talking about tonight isn't about gun control.
Oh my God, give me a break, dude. There's 1,300 people that die by smoking every single day in America. Do you know how many people die by guns a day? 10! If you really cared about saving lives, you would try to ban fucking cigarettes, but you don't. You just hate guns because they're black and scary. Get over it.
It's about common sense. Common sense says no.
Again, 1,300 people die by smoking every single day in the United States. Only 10 die by guns a day. That's common sense. Common sense says start worrying about smoking if you care about lives. Stop worrying about guns. The FBI has already said that guns save way more lives than they take away, so just shut the hell up.
No good will ever come from allowing a person to have weapons that can take down 527 Americans at a concert. Common sense says you don't let those who suffer from mental illness buy guns.
So we're just removing people's rights even though they've done nothing wrong? Like they have no history of committing violence, but you're going to remove their rights anyways because they have a mental illness like bipolar or disorganized schizophrenia. By the way, schizophrenia may scare you, but there's 6 types of schizophrenia. Disorganized schizophrenia, for example, is basically just like ADHD. You're heavily disorganized. Should those people lose rights? You're saying they should because it's schizophrenia, right? Well, they don't hear voices. They don't have hallucinations. The only thing that they have is mild disorganization. But according to you, they should lose their rights, their gun rights, because of that. See, it's stupid. We live in a country where you're innocent until proven guilty, not guilty until you're proven innocent.
You know, in June of last year, the NRA fought to make sure people on the no-fly list can buy guns. They aren't allowed to get on a plane. They're allowed to own a very dangerous gun. Who thinks that makes sense?
I do. See, the thing is, the government doesn't need a reason to put you on a no-fly list. So let's say the government doesn't like the religion that you have or the political beliefs that you have. They could just put you on the no-fly list and take away your gun rights. That's why people don't like that. Because simply put, it's just a way of backdoor gun control.
Them, I guess, the people who voted with the NRA. Maybe I'm nuts, but I would like to think we can put politics aside and agree that.
Oh, I hate when people do that. Oh, let's not be political. Let's just put politics aside as they preach to you their politics. Shut the hell up.
No American citizen needs an M16.
Here's a little news flash. Government has killed 260 million people. Not our government, but governments in general. That's more people than individuals have ever killed in history. The people aren't the killers, you idiot. The government is. We have guns to protect ourselves from them.
Or 10 of them. And maybe that way we don't do this again. I mean, that seems very reasonable to me. You know, in 1980, we had a big fire at the MGM Hotel in Las Vegas. It was horrible, right? I mean, 85 people died. You could see the fire. I mean, I was 13 years old. I'll never forget. A man jumped out the window. It was a terrible thing to see. And then a few months later, there was another fire at the Hilton, and 5 people died. So you know what they did? They changed the laws. They made major changes to the fire safety codes, and it hasn't happened again. Why would we approach this differently? It's a public safety issue.
You're not freaking getting it. The guy broke like a million goddamn laws. See, laws don't work. What works is people being armed and ready to fight. Security, more private security at that hotel would have made a huge difference. But that they didn't have the security needed. That was the problem. The location of the concert was extremely stupid. Being surrounded by a bunch of tall buildings is a terrible idea to put a concert. Those 3 things would have made a difference. What you're proposing isn't going to make a difference. You want to ban 30-round magazines, semi-automatic and fully automatic rifles. All that will do is just push them to the black market, making it so only the bad guys will have them. And all the good guys will be disarmed. It's a terrible idea.
And something needs to be done already. So tell your congresspeople to do something. I mean, it's not enough to send your love and prayers, and we do. We send our love and support and whatever else is needed to Las Vegas and to the families from all over the country and Canada who had the worst night of their lives last night.
All right, guys, if you like this episode, remember to hit that subscribe button. Also, hit that little bell so you're notified when I upload. Also, consider becoming a patron. I need more patrons. Patreon link is in the description box. Catch you on the next episode.